Okay, it looks like we
All
are
right,
now.
you are now live.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Appreciate that. So let's get started. We'll do a call to order and land acknowledgement. And just to remind everyone that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people, and the municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. And just by way of roll call, we have Hannah is here, Councillor Lovelace is here, Jane is here, Sonia is here, Liz is here, and Maggie is here.
Maggie has not joined us yet.
Okay, so if we could have approval of the minutes from January the 11th, are there any errors or omissions as circulated?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay, so hearing that there are no errors or omissions, we had a mover. Who was that?
It was Councillor Lovelace.
Councillor Lovelace, thank you. And a seconder? Hannah, thank you. So the motion is that the minutes of January 11, 2024 be approved and as circulated. And we're good.
So we'll just call for the question.
Question.
And then normally what we do, Jackie, is all those in favor would say aye, and then all those opposed would say nay.
Right. I think we're all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. So we declare the motion has been carried. Moving on. Item number 3, approval of the order of business and approval of additions and deletions. Any additions or deletions?
So there are 2 added items. 10.1, Jane McKay Nesbitt, outgoing chair remarks, and 10.2, Jane McKay Nesbitt HRM's public appointment policy. There are no additions were no deletions received from the clerk's office. And an additions agenda was circulated.
Great, thank you for that, Elizabeth. Does anyone have an item they would like to add? Okay, not seeing any. So that we need a mover and seconder to, well, I guess to include those. Do we need to do that, Elizabeth? They've already.
Yes, I can move to accept the approved order of business.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Councillor Lovelace. So
Elizabeth, is that assuming that includes the additions?
Yes, that would be a motion that the agenda be approved as amended.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay. So the motion carries as amended, and if we can move on then to item number 4, business arising out of the minutes. There's none. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
Correct.
Okay, so moving on to item number 5, call for declaration of conflicts of interest. Do any committee members have a conflict of interest they wish to declare? None. Okay. Thank you. Item number 6, consideration of deferred business. There's none. Is that correct, Elizabeth?
That's correct.
Great, thank you. Moving on to item number 7, correspondence, petitions, and delegations. 7.1. Elizabeth, is there any correspondence that was received by the clerk's office?
No correspondence was received by the clerk's office.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Petition 7.2. Elizabeth, were there any petitions that have been received by the clerk's office?
No petitions have been received by the clerk's office.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Item number 7.3, presentations. 7.3.1, review of Indigenous Women in Two-Spirit Campaign School Leadership Summit. This is Cheryl is speaking to this item. So Cheryl, if you would like to present.
So Cheryl actually has not joined the call at this point. So I would suggest we move on to the 9.1.1.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth.
I have reached out to her.
Thank you for that. 9.1.1, 2024 work plan. So the updated 2024 work plan, the draft version has been circulated. I'm assuming we've all gone through it. And so now is an opportunity for each of you to provide any additional insights that you would like to offer at this point. And we'll start with Councillor Lovelace.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the changes that I had requested at the last meeting have been implemented, so I'm quite happy with it. I think we're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace. Jane, over to you, please.
I have a question. I was pleased, I wasn't able to be part of the conversation, and so I might have missed something that was said. I was really pleased to see the addition of the fact that we would track some of our activities. My question is, who is going to do the tracking?
Right, so who's going to be tracking the activities? Elizabeth, do you have a response to that?
It was my understanding, or what I would have guessed would have been that probably the clerk's office, so myself, in collaboration with the chair, would do the tracking.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, so thank you, that chair and clerk's office. Thanks.
Right, thanks, Jane. Sonia, over to you, please. You're still muted. You're having trouble unmuting? Yes. Sonia, with your permission, we can come back to you. You can just give me a thumbs up. You're okay with that? We'll come back to you. Thank you, Sonia. So Liz, over to you.
Sure. So first, my apologies that I missed the last meeting. I had COVID for 3 full weeks, fellas. It's out there. It's still happening. So wear your masks. That's not medical advice. So I do have a couple of things that I want to chat about this work plan. And so I'm beginning with that caveat apology because I'm coming late to the party. And then I'm going to say a lot of things I should have said last week. A couple things about performance indicators. So one of our performance indicators is watching presentations. I would suggest that should be removed from performance indicators. Receiving a presentation is not an indicator of our performance. And it's certainly, as we've discussed previously, learning, I think there's certainly space for learning objectives on a work plan. But learning is not an outcome. This is not an educational institution, this municipal committee. We're supposed to be doing stuff, not learning about stuff here. And so I would recommend that receiving presentations be removed as a performance indicator. And instead we could move it, for example, to resources, or we could just sort of simply understand that it might be part of the work that we do in order to get to our performance indicators. I do wonder if it makes sense to discuss the idea of motions as a performance indicator. Like I understand the primary function of this committee is to make recommendations. And that comes in the form of, sorry, I'm just going to cough this whole time. It comes in the form of motions for action to the Executive Standing Committee. I did watch the instructional video that staff were so kind to send to me, so I understand a little bit of the process and I appreciate it very much. But I wonder about like picking a number of motions, like an arbitrary number of motions. I think the number is less important than the content of the motions. If we're supposed to be reviewing policies, then I think a performance indicator of how well we're actually performing might be, we make a motion that's related to a policy that impacts the day-to-day business of the municipality, or that is materially linked to one of the issues that we've identified for study, or that results in a measurable outcome related to one of those categories. So for example, if we're talking about health and safety, we might want to think about whether one of the motions that we make results in additional knowledge or a change in policy or a different approach that we could then link to a measurable impact on people living in the city. So I feel that a lot of these are what we might call process indicators, like in the world of grants and contributions, where you have to do your work plan. These are what would be called process indicators, as they show that you're trying to do the right things to get there. But I think what we want is actually outcome indicators or performance indicators. So I would suggest that we revisit the number of motions, and we instead might discuss the quality of motion as a performance indicator. So for example, to say X percentage, let's pick 80, everybody loves 80. 80% of motions put forward by the committee are materially relevant to the category in the work plan, or are linked to a measurable action or measurable outcome related to the issue at hand. There was one other one, sorry. And yeah, the other one is under priority 2. One of our performance indicators is that we will explore the possibility of hosting or co-hosting an event. So again, like, exploring the possibility of doing something is not an outcome. If we're saying we want to do this, and this is something that we think is going to be important and is going to help advance the work of this committee, then our indicator would be whether or not we actually did do it. And we may not hit all of our performance indicators, like, that's possible. But I think we would measure our success or failure based on whether we actually did it, and not whether we explored the possibility of doing it. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Liz. So what I'm hearing then is a sort of measurable outcomes need to be revisited, and we need to look at more sort of concrete, materially relevant work plan or measurement outcomes. Is that kind of in summation what I think I heard? Okay, and so thank you for that. And so we'll make a note of that, Liz, and we're going to continue on with the speakers list, unless somebody has a response they'd like to provide on what Liz is talking about in terms of numbers of motions versus materially relevant to the work plan or measured outcomes. Yes, Councillor Lovelace, please.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the comments and the insight, Liz. I think part of the struggle that we're going to have is that any motion that we put forward to the executive committee, and that's really all that we can do, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go forward anywhere. So by placing a number on it, and it is a small number, and I think it is totally achievable to have this committee move forward with 3 items. I don't know if Elizabeth, how many motions went forward in the previous year. I was not on the committee, so I couldn't say, but I do think that it would be interesting if we could compare how many did we do last year. Could we do more than we did last year? I totally agree with the quality of them, and ensuring that the motions connect to the work plan. But I would say, Liz, that that's completely inherent upon what it is that we're doing. All of our motions will be and must be under our terms of reference what it is that we're doing. So they would be, motions with outcomes that speak specifically to the work plan. But again, I completely understand where you're coming from. I think we're stuck in a process and a system, quite frankly, that limits our ability in what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace. I don't know if Elizabeth from the clerk's office, if you wanted to speak to that.
Hi. In terms of, I know Councillor Lovelace, you mentioned the amount, how many motions were passed in the last year. I believe it was 3 that were passed. And the previous year, I wasn't at that time assigned to this committee, so I'm not sure. I'd have to go back in previous records and minutes, and I would also have to look at the annual report from last year to see for 2022 how many motions were passed.
Okay,
you.
thank you for that. I appreciate that, Elizabeth.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Back to you, Liz. Did you want to respond to
Yeah,
what you
can
heard?
I just real quick, Chair? Sorry, I don't want to monopolize. She said monopolizing. I guess thank you, Councillor Lovelace. And I agree with you that it would be difficult to guarantee that the recommendations that we make would be adopted or to see our impact. I guess from my perspective, the whole point of a performance indicator or performance measurement is to see whether you're actually doing anything. And if in fact our objective is to provide insight that shapes the way that policy is made and that action is taken, and we measure it, and we say, gosh, you know, we made 17 motions and nothing changed. To me, like that's the data we're trying to get. Is that raises a lot of really important questions, like is the structure of where the committee is situated in the municipality appropriate? Is it appropriate to have the committee? Like the point of measuring our performance is to see whether we are actually doing the thing. And our objective surely is not merely to generate motions like that. That's not a useful product. Our objective is for those motions to move action. And so I guess my suggestion is like, yes, getting 3 motions out the door is 100% an achievable goal. And if our objective is just to do stuff and meet and have a great time, that's lovely. I enjoy spending time with you all. As a taxpayer, I feel a little weird about that. And I think we really do actually need to have a measurable objective outside just the process of being together in committee. I wonder if maybe speaking more to that process piece, it sounds like there's some real appetite for process measurement. And I wonder if we could revisit the something that we discussed a little earlier in the work planning process, where we're talking about having a review function, where it's not just that we're reviewing existing policies, it's that when policies are being brought forward, when new updates are being brought forward, when reports are being brought forward, they come to us first for that gender-based lens, and for us to make comments before they are brought forward to the executive committee. So sorry. It's real, it's still happening. And that could be more of a process piece, you know, like provided insight or provided a review function to X number of municipal reports or X number of new proposed municipal policies, if there's real appetite for that process piece, because I feel like that's a really appropriate role for us to play, an appropriate measurement. But in terms of like, if we're making motions spontaneously, like if we're having great ideas and we want them to go out into that wider municipal world, I think what we need to measure is whether that actually does anything. Sorry, I'm done for real now.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that, Liz. I appreciate that additional clarification. I don't know if Elizabeth, did you want to speak on that from that perspective from the clerk's office in terms of the feasibility, doability, or shall we continue with our speakers list?
I can certainly speak to that briefly. Another thing, I'm Jane and Liz, I know both of you weren't present at the last meeting. We did have a presentation from Tracy, the manager of diversity and inclusion, who's not at today's meeting. It was Tracy and Caroline Hemstock who did speak to kind of what is within the purview and the mandate of the committee. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, but I would encourage you to go back to the YouTube video. I can certainly send it to you directly, just to review everything that both of them spoke to within the presentation. I think it was incredibly helpful in terms of, I guess, establishing a direction for the committee for the next year. And Tracy also spoke to the committee's ability to advise on policy in depth in that presentation.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for that gentle reminder. Jane, did you want to speak on this point that Liz has raised?
My comment was only going to be that I think Liz's points are really great. I think what you're suggesting, Liz, is quite a a substantive change to the work plan as it's written. And my recommendation is that you take those ideas and put them in writing and put them before us so we could consider what you're saying. I don't disagree with anything that you're saying, but I like to see it in writing so that we could consider what you have to say next meeting after we've had a chance to review what you've written.
Okay, thanks for that, Jane. Thanks for that, Liz, your willingness to do that. I'm going to just check to see if Sonia is able to join us. Sonia, are you able to speak, unmute yourself and speak to us about your thoughts on the work plan? I'm going to take that as no. So we'll come back to Sonia. Maggie, is Maggie online? No, okay. So I will just go ahead then and say I agree with what Liz is saying. I think more specificity in terms of measurable outcomes is great. I think it's tempering the bandwidth of the committee relative to our kind of the terms of reference for this, but I'm not opposed to certainly seeing, I'm sure everybody is in favor of seeing in writing what Liz is proposing. And I have to say, I'm going to do a little geek out as a credentialed evaluator. I'm like, yeah, Liz, totally. Yeah, I get it. So I think maybe a little bit more specificity in terms of what are the sort of, I guess, impacts of the work plan on sort of measurable outcomes. And I totally appreciate that. So maybe, Liz, if we can leave that with you to do a little bit more wordsmithing on what you think that ought to look like and where you think it ought to fit. I think that would be super helpful. And we're going to move on. So that's my 50-cent opinion. So moving on to you, Hannah, for your thoughts on the work plan, please.
Yeah, I don't have any specific thoughts. I agree with what's been brought up and said. The other thing I'd like to put forth is for future work plans or conversations, I think it would be ideal if we utilized emails when agendas are set out, and maybe if we have ideas, just give them a heads up so we can all come together and plan and think about it and discuss it right off the bat, and keep the ball rolling. Just because agendas do get set out, and so we can have the opportunity to put our thoughts in, and then discuss them, of course, here.
Thanks,
Gives
Hannah.
us all more time to think about it and bring any ideas.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Hannah. Sonia, you're back with us. Are you able to unmute? Oh, there you are. Hi.
I made it. Oh my goodness. Yes, I apologize. I don't know why I couldn't unmute. I had to restart my computer. Yes. So you were asking what my feedback to the work plan is?
Yep. So if you have any additional feedback on the draft version of our work plan that was circulated prior to this meeting, and just any further comments that you might have or suggested or proposed changes.
No immediate suggested changes. I think the question I would have is the work plan is a living document, right? Isn't that is it a one and done approval? Like once it's done, we can amend it? No, Jay? Sorry, it's a question.
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. I'm not sure if it's just me or if others are.
Oh, I actually hear you beautifully, Sonia. So
Me too.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I can hear
I
you.
can hear you.
The question,
Yeah.
the question is a fair question about whether or not this is a living document. I'm not sure why it couldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I don't have a problem, or I don't think that's problematic to suggest it's a living document. So there could be potential changes as needed along the way. There could be some other crisis happening in HRM that this committee might want to weigh in and sort of prioritize. So I think that flexibility, Sonia, makes a lot of sense. It's trying to have a little bit less of a moving target so people know what they're in for the year. But it also makes sense to save space for emerging issues in HRM. So I think that's a great observation.
And thank you
And
for responding, and thanks, Councillor Lovelace. So the reason why I asked that question so I can clarify is with the wonderful suggestions and more ideas and the more excellent way for us to serve being put forward by members. I just feel like I wouldn't want us to get stuck, rolling around that point right now. But I mean, it's definitely great for us to document them and take a look and definitely improve as we can. Maya Angelou says, as we know better, we do better, right? So I'm very happy with additions coming into the work plan and us knowing better what to do better. Yeah, but that's my only comment.
thank you
for
very
now.
much for that, Sonia. Elizabeth, can we make a note of that so that this will be treated as a living document, which I kind of have the sense that it kind of is, but if you wanted to offer any clarification from the clerk's office on that, that would be welcome.
Yeah, I don't have a concrete answer right now in terms of if it can be amended. I don't see any reason why. I don't know if that has happened in the past, but of course, this is the work plan. How I view it and my understanding of it is that it is a guideline to guide the priorities and goals of the committee. It's not necessarily something that if the committee identifies an issue that they, are interested in about 2 months' time, then of course you can pass a motion on that issue and receive presentations. It's not something that you're necessarily bound by. It's more to give the committee some direction and to have something to, like a touchstone, I suppose. That being said, if the committee does wish to change the draft work plan and this isn't the one that you want to send to the executive standing committee for approval, the draft can certainly be taken back and brought before the committee at it would be the March meeting. So I mean, that's up to the committee if they would like to, or if you would all like to pass the work plan today that was circulated. Yeah, I think that's all I have to add.
Thanks, Elizabeth, for that. So are there any other comments before we wrap up the discussion on this item? Jane?
Jackie, could I just say, so it's, to me, it's evident that there's no consensus that this is a work plan that this committee wants to approve at this point in time. So there's no motion coming forward to approve it. So it has to be discussed again at a subsequent meeting. And my suggestion, as I said, was that Liz do some work on it so that it better reflects her thoughts. And that then comes back to the committee for approval.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And also Sonia's comment about this being a living document, which means it has the opportunity to be open again and brought forward. So that's been reflected in today's discussion. Councillor Lovelace, over to you, please.
Thank you so much. Really good discussion. I appreciate hearing everyone's perspectives. It is a complex structure, political structure, administrative structure that we're in right now. But to move forward in the agenda, I would suggest that I'd be happy to put the motion on the floor, Madam Chair, with an amendment that includes that the Women's Advisory Committee would revise or would review and would review by May 1st and potentially put forward revisions, so that at this point it would be a motion that moves forward. It would clarify for clerks and for the Executive Standing Committee that we have a work plan, but that work plan should be expected to be revised and reviewed. So what that does is I think it would give Liz a few months. It would give the committee some time to review those outcomes and ensure that the performance measures are changed. And I think what's going to happen, hopefully, is that this will provide a new framework moving forward with performance indicators. I think the majority of our committees are following this methodology. So I think we might be a little bit of some change makers with looking forward to actually having some concrete outcomes. And that is what I'm hearing, and I completely agree with it. So if you're all in agreement, I move that the Women's Advisory Committee approve the 2024 work plan as circulated and recommend that the Executive Standing Committee review and approve Women's Advisory Committee 2024 work plan within, and again, I just need to wordsmith this very quickly. As of, I guess, May 1st, the Women's Advisory Committee will review and may make amendments to the 2024 work plan.
Great, thank you, Councillor Lovelace. Elizabeth, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I have that copied down.
Terrific, thanks. So we want to put that motion forward. So we need a seconder on that. So who?
I will second it.
Okay, Anna, thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Elizabeth, did you get that?
I'm just trying to see how many we have in favor. We have Councillor Lovelace, Hannah, Jane. Are there any, I guess, call to see if there are any opposed?
Are there any opposed?
I'm opposed, sorry.
Liz is opposed. Sonia?
I'm for. I
You're
said
for.
aye.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so that motion has carried. Thank you to everyone. Obviously, with the caveat that we'll revisit the key issues that were raised by Liz about performance indicators. Thank you for that. Appreciate that, Liz. And we've got the fully nuanced suggestion from Councillor Lovelace in the record. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
Hi, yeah, I also just wanted to note that I have been in contact. I was able to get a hold of the presenter for 7.3.1. And unfortunately, the presenter is no longer able to attend the meeting. So there are two options since the order of business has already been approved. We can either have a motion to defer the item, or we can just, if the committee is all in agreement to defer the presentation to a future meeting, we can have it noted in the minutes that it was deferred.
Okay, so motion to defer the presentation till a future meeting. Are we all okay with that? We're all
I will
okay.
make that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace, and seconded by Hannah. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, so motion has been continue moving on.
Since there was a mover and a seconder, I would recommend just
Question.
calling for the question.
Right, sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion is carried. Thank you for that. Moving on, please, to item number 9.1.2, Muslim Women's Safety Report Update. And this is Amy. We'll invite you to come forward with that presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, this is quite a short update, but just on the topic of you folks being able to kind of understand the status of the motions that you've made in the past. I wanted to let you know that the progress on the Muslim Women's Safety Report continues, and it should be going to Executive Standing Committee this month. Pending review, it's currently in the review process. So yeah, just wanted to give you folks an update on that. And it's something that once we have absolute confirmation that it's going to Executive Standing Committee, I'll make sure I send a note to Elizabeth, Elizabeth, hopefully you can help me circulate that to the committee so that you can tune in to see how that goes.
Great, thank you very much, Amy. We'll move on to the speakers list. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lovelace, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Just very quickly. So thanks for that, Amy. Just councillors have a list within Report Center. And within that Report Center, we get to see the progress of those reports. And so when I was on executive committee, this was the motion that I placed while an executive. And so I'm just looking at the Report Center and just wanted to say that according to this, the date is February 26th. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. And, you know, as committee members, as residents and so on, we do have the opportunity to attend those meetings, because they do take place at City Hall. You can watch them live on YouTube. You can also send in comments. And so I would suggest that should this move forward to Executive Committee on February 26th, that I personally would like to see outreach done to members of the Muslim community to ensure that they're aware of this report being in front of Executive Committee. Once Executive Committee, this is the whole process thing that just boggles your mind. But once it gets approved by Executive, then it moves on to Regional Council. And then, so I just wanted to make sure that folks were aware of again, the process that takes place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace.
And can I just, Jackie, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, thank you so much, Councillor Lovelace. And so the folks who have been involved in the engagements for we're still in touch. So I've let them know that it's moving forward and let them know the date, but it's a good point too, that maybe there's some folks outside of the group of folks who have been involved who might also be interested in tuning in for that. So thank you very much. And thank you, Chair, for that.
Thanks, Amy. So we'll leave that as kind of an action for you, Amy, to the outreach question. Thank you for that. We'll go to our speakers list, and first up is Jane. Over to you, please, for any comments or questions.
Nothing, no comments, thanks.
Thanks, Jane. Sonia, over to you, please.
No comments.
Thank you, Sonia. Liz, over to you.
No, you guys are safe this time.
Okay, thank you. And I don't have any comments or questions. Hannah, over to you, please.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lovelace, anything further?
Just one more quick thing, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure that the committee is aware that HRM's new community safety division is actually heading this up. Obviously, we have multiple business units that are engaged in this report, including finance and asset management, fire and emergency services, Halifax Transit, human resources, parks and recreation, Halifax Library, Halifax Police, RCMP, and so on and so forth. So just so you know, we've got like the whole team coming together to work through this with stakeholders. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace. Are there any other comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on then to item 9.2, committee member updates, starting with 9.2.1, Regional Council update, and we'd invite Councillor Lovelace to provide an update on Regional Council's recent activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to be really brief because we've only had one meeting of Regional Council. We have had some budget meetings, but both Mayor Savage and myself were away for council when it took place. So, and Councillor Kent has sent her regrets, so was unable to provide the kind of the update from Regional Council. I will say that we do have a heavy agenda as well coming this Tuesday. And so at the previous council meeting, there was a public hearing, and that was on Regional Center secondary municipal planning strategy. So some changes to center plan. There's going to be ongoing conversations over the coming months with regards to center plan, urban and suburban municipal planning changes, in particular looking at densification in order to satisfy the Housing Accelerator Fund. That's a federal fund where the Government of Canada has essentially provided or has promised over a 4-year period up to $79 million for the municipality to increase housing. And I think, so I'll leave it at that. It's a pretty heavy conversation, and I almost feel like we need to have somebody come to the committee, Elizabeth, and just to give an overview to the committee as far as what those changes mean. As we add people along transit corridors, as we continue to densify and so on and so forth. I think it's important to consider the impact to women and marginalized and vulnerable groups. We also had a discussion at council on the Halifax Common Master Plan, review and the implementation of that. There's been lots of conversation around what's been going on with the Wanderers Ground and with the Halifax Common, and how we can balance the needs of all the stakeholders that are engaged in that. The council did move to approve the implementation plan, and that meeting was on January 23rd. So that was not that long ago. In addition, council approved more funding for the Navigator Outreach Program. As you've seen and heard, more and more outreach support and community navigators are needed in order to help those living in encampments, help those that are coming into the municipality from outside, looking for shelter, looking for places to stay. So through the Downtown Halifax Business Commission, the Downtown Dartmouth Business Commission, and North End Business Commission, they all do incredible work to support community navigators. So HRM has put forward a total of $345,000 over a 2-year period to support that program. It's an extremely important program, and those are the folks that are on the ground that are helping unhoused people actually get services and access those services that they need. In addition to that, there was a good conversation on sidewalks, and as a woman walking downtown, there's always a conversation around lighting and sidewalks, what it means, for a young mom or a young parent to be walking with a stroller, or someone who's trying to navigate a street in a wheelchair and so on. So HRM is trying to look at what is that level of service overall throughout the municipality that we should be providing, and looking at what it means to have good service. So that conversation hopefully will continue, but it looks like council is trying to find a way to save money and reduce funding. But that being said, they're looking at ways to also increase access to sidewalks. So in addition to urban sidewalks, municipalities engaging in community conversations around rural sidewalks and what that would mean for places like Upper Tantallon, or Porter's Lake, or the community of Hubbard to actually have access to a safe sidewalk on these really busy main corridors and highways for these communities. So I think you'll be hearing more and more conversation about sidewalks. In addition, for those people who are paying attention to the marketing levy and short-term rentals, there's been ongoing confusion and frustration with regards to the marketing levy and how people are actually being fined for not reporting. And for people who are not reporting, they're not reporting because they're not renting out their short-term rental in December or January. So in the winter months. So stay tuned for more conversations on that as well. I will also say that our budget meetings, we did have a capital budget meeting. The capital budget's been approved. We are now in the nitty-gritty of going through every single business unit and reviewing all of the funding requests. The majority of the funding requests that come in from our operations are people, right? They're full-time staff or people who can take on additional work. As the municipality continues to grow, we continue to need more and more people to be able to serve the population. So you'll to stay in the loop on the budget, you can go to halifax.ca/budget, and you will see all of the itemized dates and schedule as far as which business unit is going to be presenting in front of budget committee over the coming month. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have for now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lovelace. We'll open it up for questions or comments. Any questions or comments?
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lovelace. We'll move on to item 10, which is under added items. 10.1, Jane, outgoing chair, remarks. Over to you, please.
Oh, well, thank you, Jackie. Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to take this time to say congratulations to Jackie and to Hannah on being elected to these positions. I'm very pleased and very confident that they're going to do a great job of leadership. So my best to you. I also wanted to just express my gratitude to the members of the Women's Advisory Committee over the past few years, including those of you who are around the table today, or around the screen, I guess would be the better word, for the work you've done. Liz, you're pushing us along in a really positive direction, which is great. But I want you to know that our committee is recognized in the city as one of the most active committees, and we over the past 4 years have gained quite a lot of respect from council. I think Pam might agree with me that we are a group of women who want things to get done, and we are pushing on the Executive Standing Committee to do that. So my best to all of you as you continue to do that. The other people I would like to thank are the clerk's office. Elizabeth, as you know, has served us very well. And we've also had help from Krista Vining, who is the deputy clerk. She was our legislative assistant when the committee was formed. And it was she had to do a lot of work with us to get us onto a good footing, and she's still there behind the scenes helping us. I think Elizabeth would agree that Krista's often there giving us advice, helping move the committee along in the right direction, as is Ian McLean, the clerk of the court. And the other group of people I think deserve our thanks, my thanks anyways, are the staff like Amy Brierly. Amy has been with us right from the very beginning. And again, there's another person who is helping the committee move along in the right direction, as is Bailey from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and Tracy, and others who step in from time to time. So really, I just wanted to pat these people on the back and express my gratitude to them. So that's my comments as outgoing chair.
Thank you very much, Jane, for those comments. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for the opportunity to sort of switch hands, as it were, and to step into this role. And thank you to Hannah for remaining there. And I wish you all the best, Jane. It's been lovely working with you, and it's been a pleasure sort of learning from you as our chair. And I just wanted to open up the floor and see if there are any comments at this point from anyone. Just open the floor. Okay.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, thank you, Jane. We'll move on to the next item, 10.2. To you again, Jane, HRM's public appointment policy. Please, Jane, go ahead.
So I've put forward a motion, which I believe was circulated to you. And I'm hoping that somebody might second that motion so that we could then have a little discussion about my rationale for that motion.
I would be delighted to second.
Thanks,
Thank
Liz.
you.
So the issue that I've put before you is that through the year, I think because, oh, sorry, Elizabeth, I'm sorry. Do you need to speak
Yeah.
now?
Just a point of order. If you're going to, since you're the mover of the motion, I would just ask that you read the motion out loud.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can do that. Where the heck is it? My computer.
I can certainly, I could email it to you very quickly.
Oh, no, I can find, just give me a
Okay.
second. I can find it. Here it is. Okay. So I move that the Women's Advisory Committee recommend that the Executive Standing Committee direct the Chief Administrative Officer to provide a staff report to consider updating the public appointment policy so that positions on the Women's Advisory Committee that become vacant prior to the expected expiry of a member's term of office are filled within a month of the position becoming vacant.
Jane. And Liz, I think, sorry.
Is that all you need, Elizabeth?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so the issue is that I think it's because we have, this would be my, I don't know exactly, but I think because we have intelligent, energetic, ambitious women on our committee from time to time, these women need to move on to other things midterm. And so what that means is that our committee, which is a full complement, is 11 of us, ends up with few people who are actually at our meetings making decisions and having conversations about important issues. And as you know, one of the priorities of the last work plan and the work plan that you've just basically approved for at least the next little while is a focus on women's involvement in municipal processes, including committees. And so to me, it makes, it's important that when we lose a committee member during the year, that those committee members are replaced so that citizens of Halifax are represented on our committee. So that's the essence of that motion, to ask the HRM to consider a process where when those vacancies occur midterm, that they can be filled immediately rather than waiting. So currently, for example, we have, if we had a full complement of members, we would have 11 members, but we only have 8. We've had 3 vacancies since September. And, given people's schedules, we often end up like we are tonight with only 6. And last meeting, there were only 5 members at a meeting making decisions. So anybody that wants to ask any questions or make comments, I think I've said enough.
Thanks, Jane. Please, Councillor Lovelace, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, Madam Clerk, if you can put that motion in the chat so I can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, thank you. In the meantime, I'll just add a few comments. My understanding with the 30-day time limit would be that council would have to appoint. And if council's not able to review those applications for the committee, and we don't have people for the committee, then we would need to recruit them. That recruitment is going to take far more than 30 days. So I think then what we would need along with that schedule is an actual rolling commitment from those people who are the secondaries, right? The second, they didn't make it to the committee this time, but potentially they would like to join the committee. That being said, if we only have 2 people and both those people were actually ended up selected for other committees, then again, I'm just concerned about the time limit and whether or not it's actually feasible to work through. So I'm wondering, just reading your motion right now, within a month, I'm wondering, Jane, if you would be amendable to actually changing that to 60 days.
Well, 60 days would be a whole lot better than what we have right now. That's for sure. I mean, I think in terms of I mean, I don't not know the inner workings of this HRM, and it's a complex organization, but it seems to me that if you're selecting, for example, we're selecting 3, the recruitment process will be looking for 3 new members for April. Why wouldn't they ask council to approve 6 new members, 3 of whom are alternates and 3 of whom are appointed? So that should somebody vacate their position, it does not need to go back to council. I don't know if that's possible. That's why I'm suggesting that time frame. And if they come back and say this is just not feasible, well, it's not feasible. I don't presume to be able to tell the HRM how they should run that.
Thanks, Jane. Councillor Lovelace and then to Elizabeth.
I was just going to say if Elizabeth has something to chime in, I like the idea of having additional alternates. Elizabeth?
Hi, yeah, so I just wanted to note that this was brought to the attention of staff. Unfortunately, staff couldn't attend this meeting, but they could attend a future meeting if a motion to defer was decided upon. We did, unfortunately, like I said, they just weren't able to attend this meeting, but we could look to having subject matter experts on staff who'd be able to speak to the public appointment policy a bit more in depth. To speak to the committee about that and answer any questions regarding the appointment policy at a future meeting. That would presumably be the March meeting.
Thanks for that, Elizabeth. So are we comfortable with that we would defer this motion for the March meeting and have a subject expert come to that meeting and walk us through the process currently in place?
Jackie, there's a motion on the floor. You have to vote on the motion that's on the floor, or you make an amendment to the motion.
There's two amendments that I've heard. So the 60-day rather than the 1 month, and the other amendment was to add alternatives. So that would be two, as I heard
They
it.
weren't seconded though. But the move could withdraw the motion with the seconder's approval, and then we could just place this motion on at the next meeting.
Okay, Liz, over to you.
I'm just curious, just because I like facts. So we have a recruitment process that's currently underway, right? That call for committee members has gone out. How deep's our bench currently? Like I'm just, well, look, I got pulled in off the bench. That's how you all got stuck with me, is I applied and then somebody else got the nod. And then I got a call a month later after the new cycle had begun saying, yeah, no, I don't know, that person washed out. Do you want to do it? And I said, I would love to. So I guess like my curiosity is like, do we have a sense now? Are we getting lots of interest? Are we likely to have a deep bench where we can pull people in? Because what we're discussing now is feasibility, right? So if we are looking at a situation of plenty, then I think we probably have fewer concerns about feasibility, and it's maybe easier to put the motion forward as moved. But if we're looking at slim pickings, people are busy, then I think that I'm just thinking like that probably influences whether, like, how we're going to respond to the motion if we have some sort of just some background information,
Okay,
if possible.
Thanks, Liz. So I'm going to turn it back to Elizabeth because there's a procedural piece and then there were amendments. So there's a couple of different pieces at play. So Elizabeth, over to you.
Thanks. So that is a great question, Liz. However, I'm unfortunately not able to speak to the recruitment process. We would have to have a staff member come and speak to the committee about that. I'm not able to speak to that process. I'm not the legislative assistants were not directly involved with that. So unfortunately, I'm not able to provide any further information regarding the recruitment process at this time. I wish I had a more thorough or better answer for you, but unfortunately, I'm not.
You can't do every job in the HRM, Elizabeth. You can't do them all. We understand.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Sonia, please, over to you.
I don't know why I don't see the option to raise my hand, and I don't want to touch this bar so I don't have issues again. But I think in support of Liz's point, but this is what I think, and again, I'm not the expert as well, but whether or not we have a big pool or a small pool, it's the same approach that I think. I don't think that there might be a different motion or a different approach to it. I think the point is to have people like in a pool, like the provincial government does it, right? To have people there that we can reach out to when positions do come open, which we can have, whether it's a slim, how did Liz say it was so cute, slim pick, or it's full of bountiful people. So I think if this motion, is moved and the experts come in and, it looks like, okay, something they can work with, it will now be on the recruitment team to think about how to enhance that with, you know, so if it was a slim pick, for example, then they would think about how to make it such that they're, you know, they can worry about that part of getting more people interested, maybe more campaigns or adverts or however they do it. Yeah, that's kind of what my thought is, because I think whether they do have a slim pool or not, and we don't know that they can share that information with us, you know, but what this is suggesting is that when there's a process, we should consider those who are going to come in now and then have like backup, for lack of more accessible words to use.
Thank you, Sonia. So what I'm hearing from you, Sonia, is that we should entertain this motion as it is, and then at a future meeting, when the experts are available to come and say, this is how we can do it, and this is, you know, not feasible because the recruitment process behind the scenes, et cetera, is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yes, that's where I'm going, because I think it's the same solution. How the issue of the pool being slim or plenty of people is for the recruitment side of things, which I think they can sort out. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Sonia. Jane, back to you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, could I speak again?
Yes.
So there's an issue of how this gets implemented, and the motion that's in front of you is not about how it gets implemented. The motion in front of you is to ask the staff members to explore some way of making this happen for us.
Okay.
And so that's our suggestion, is we would like the CAO to ask the staff to come forward with an examination of this issue. And I think we can, personally, I would leave it at 30 days, although I'd be happy to go to 60, but I think we can leave it at 30 because what we do not have the power to say to the HRM staff, do this. We have the power to ask them to look for a process where they could do this for us. And I think it's vitally important that we do it now, that we don't wait another month and listen to, the staff come and talk to us. I think the Executive Standing Committee should ask them to prepare a report and go and talk to the Executive Standing Committee about whether or not this can happen. And if they tell the Executive Standing Committee, the CAO does the investigation and says it can't happen, can't happen.
Okay, thanks for that, Jane. Councillor Lovelace, please.
Thank you. I'll just be very quick on this. The clerk's office has already undertaken a review of all committees, all standing committees. That review is expected imminently because, of course, it is an election year. And so as we move into, an election, it's just a new council and so on, just to, figure out, do we need all these committees? Do these committees work? And so on and so forth. I will also say that, the timing is in the motion, it says an expected, how does this word? Yeah, expected expiry of a member's term of office. So that if somebody quits today, we wouldn't be able to fill that position within a month, obviously, unless there's alternatives already in place. Those alternates, though, run pretty low as far as not having enough people, partly because of the recruitment process being an annual recruitment process. And so it's important to consider the timing of that process. And I know that some committees have had to wait 3 months because there's just nobody in the pool. And so, I just think that while I appreciate this motion, I also think that when we put motions forward to the Executive Standing Committee, we want to make sure that there is an outcome that we're going to expect, right? I don't know that staff coming back to us and saying, yeah, we can't really do this. It's just not feasible because we're just in the midst of a recruitment process. So you're going to have to wait. We don't even know how many people at this point have indicated that they want to be members of this committee. And in addition to that, with the Executive Committee meeting on the 26th of this month, it's unlikely to get anything on their agenda. So we would probably not get on the agenda until March anyway, which would be prior to the next March meeting where staff and the experts within the public policy and the recruitment process will be able to come to this committee and say, here's the things that we can tell you to make this motion better, to ensure that it's going to be an outcome that you're looking forward to at that next meeting from the executive committee. So just food for thought. I do appreciate this motion. I do know that there's other committees that are struggling as well, because people, you know, they get a new job or they move away and they can't commit to this anymore. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Lovelace. Over to you, please, Hannah.
Yeah, so my thoughts after listening to all the points that have been made up is it's a good motion. I guess my suggestion or amendment to it be the ask change to, can we have the recruitment process happen twice a year? Because we have terms that end in April and terms that end in October. So can we have the recruitment process be done twice a year in preparation for terms ending? And that also gives us another chance to have recruiting happen instead of just once annually. Because once annually in the fall is going to be a lot harder than if we have people who are nearing end or requiring more volunteer hours or anything like that, which typically happen in the spring, depending on where they are and what they're doing. So I appreciate the ask, and my suggestion would be to change the ask so the recruitment happens more frequently.
Great. Thank you, Hannah. That's been noted. Liz, please, over to you.
I just want to display some useful ignorance. What is the instrument that governs recruitment? Like, presumably the recruitment cycle is the same for all committees. Is it a policy? Is it like, what is the what's the policy cover for recruitment, i.e. like how big of a deal is it to change the recruitment cycle?
I just posted it in the chat.
Oh.
So it's an admin order.
I was just going to say the same thing. Thank you, Councillor Lovelace.
Okay. So we've got a couple of concerns about the motion as circulated. I'm not hearing the support. Oh, sorry, Elizabeth, go ahead.
I just wanted to make another note. I know, Jane, you mentioned about voting on the motion a few minutes ago. I just wanted to clarify that there really are two options before the committee. Either the committee could vote on the current motion on the floor, or you could make a motion to defer the motion to a future meeting.
Which I think we
Without
discussed.
voting on it.
Yeah, I think we discussed
just to
that.
clarify. Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you again for that gentle reminder, Elizabeth. So Jane, back to you. Is it
So somebody else would move it to be deferred, right?
Correct. If that is something the committee wants to do, we need a mover and a seconder to have it deferred to a future meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, Jane, are you comfortable with that, deferring to a future meeting?
I'd probably rather see it defeated.
Okay.
To be honest, I mean, defeat the motion. Come on. I mean, if you don't like the motion, defeat it.
Any final thoughts on this, please, Councillor Lovelace?
Thank you, Jane. I don't think it's that we don't like the motion. The motion is great. The intent of the motion is excellent. The issue is that we haven't received enough information from the experts who can talk to us about the administrative order, who can talk to us about the changes that the clerk's office have already made and have undertaken to revise the public policy, to revise the structure of all the committees. And also, I don't think that we have enough information. But I do want to indicate that there is a third option that you have. And the third option is to just simply withdraw the motion with approval from the seconder. And then that motion could be put forward at the next meeting and debated at that time after we have a presentation from staff on some of these very significant issues which you've raised today.
Thank you for that, Councillor Lovelace.
So Liz, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I love the chutzpah of just leave the motion on the table. It's moved. Let's deal with it. It's hard for me to give that up. My only thought is, but of course I will follow your lead because it's your motion. So whatever you want to do is what I'll do. I will just say, it sounds like the deferral that Councillor Lovelace is recommending is essentially a request for more information. And since your motion is essentially a motion that is requesting information, I wonder if we're accidentally meeting in the middle. But that is for you to decide because it is your motion. And so I will follow your lead, whatever you choose to do.
Okay, well, we'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, so that has been noted that the motion has been withdrawn.
With the
Anything-
approval of the seconder.
With the approval of Liz as the seconder. Thank you.
Nothing can happen on this committee without my approval. We know this.
That's right. Elizabeth, anything further on that?
No, that should be all. We can discuss this at the March meeting. I can definitely reach out to staff to make sure they are able to come and present and speak to this matter at next month's meeting. But no further action is required if the motion is withdrawn.
That's great. Thanks for that, Elizabeth. So we'll revisit this at our next meeting, which on my under item 12 looks like March the 7th. So that's my understanding, Elizabeth, that there'll be somebody from staff able to come and speak to this. Great.
That is correct.
Thank you kindly. So we are now at adjournment. All in favor of adjournment? Do we need anything else, Elizabeth?
Just a mover for adjournment. One mover, no seconder.
Oh, that was Pamela Lovelace. Thank you for that. Anything else, Elizabeth, that you need from us before we bid you farewell for the evening?
No, that is all. You can officially adjourn the meeting.
So meeting is adjourned, and I did want to again say thank you so much to Jane for your leadership as chair, and I wish you all the best. And I'm sure our paths will cross again. So take good care, Jane. Be well.
Thank you, Jane.
Thanks, Jean.
Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
Jane.
Bye.